Wine to Five is partially funded by Albarello Luxury Hand Soap, an unscented must-have accessory for anyone who loves wine, cooking, and food. For more information, visit albarellosoap.com.
It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to Wine to Five. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, two wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
Welcome back to Wine to Five. I'm Val, and I'm here with Steph.
Hey, Val. Hey, everybody. And dude, Val, thank you so much for letting me borrow your red cowboy boots that were so sexy for the Cyndi Lauper concert on Sunday. It was awesome.
And I think for most listeners who may not understand why you needed red cowboy boots, one, for the Cyndi Lauper concert, or why Val even has red cowboy boots, I don't know. Maybe the listeners don't know. How was the concert?
Oh, the concert was great. And since her new album is country western, I wanted to dress up with a little bit of a cowboy flair, and I don't have cowboy boots, so yours came to the rescue. What I wasn't expecting, though, was she had every other song a classic, one of her greatest hits. So it was country and then a greatest hits pop song. And so it alternated, and we just kept standing up and dancing and then sitting down and listening to country. And it was fun. Yeah. Well, tell me more about these red boots, though. Like, what's the story behind your red boots?
Well, girls just want to have fun. And I used to actually be a country western dancer.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
There isn't anything you can't do, Val. Like,
I know.
I'm surprised you used to be a country western dancer.
Yeah, well, those boots are actually by Justin. That's the name of the maker.
Oh, my God.
Same as your hubby.
So crazy.
And yeah, those are Justin Roper's. I actually at one time had probably between 11 and 15 pairs in different colors to include turquoise, navy blue, pearl white.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to take professional lessons from a couple that I think was about to be sponsored by either Shepler's or Justin at one time, and they'd won the Masters Division of Dance competition, and we were taking lessons from them. And then when I came back to the States, there was a ballroom champion that was training me in Vegas for a while, and so my partner decided they didn't want to dance anymore. But yeah, dancing was my thing, and I kept those boots because those red boots, I mean, those are cool.
They are way cool, and it just totally made the whole outfit, and I was like, well, I planned the whole outfit around your red boots. I mean, it was really cool. It was so cool. So thank you. But I
hope you got pictures.
Yes, I have some great pictures.
Well, yeehaw, giddy up, girl. So,
yeehaw, let's talk about what we're drinking. What have you got?
Well, I'm drinking me some bourbon. So
That's so perfect.
But yes, I've got here a chilled maple bourbon apple cider cocktail. It's actually my second one because I drank the first one while we were doing show prep, and then I realized it was gone. And there's a sprig of rosemary jammed in there. It is sweet, it's spicy, it's savory from the rosemary, which I spanked before putting it in the glass. So a nice nod to fall while it still feels like summer outside here in September in Colorado, I know. What about you? What do you got?
Well, I was thinking along the same lines and was thinking, okay, maybe I should have some bourbon today. And I was going to have Maker's Mark, but I didn't. I had something else kind of that was, gnawing at me. But I love that you're drinking bourbon because it's National Bourbon Heritage Month. And not to be confused with National Bourbon Day, because that's in June. But September is National Bourbon Heritage Month. So, Val, you're celebrating America's native spirit.
Well, I had no idea because this is what I've been drinking pretty much all weekend. This is actually the Buffalo Trace Eagle Rare, but we did make the cocktail with Maker's Mark over the weekend. And so how funny is that? I had no idea.
I know. I think that's cool. So I had some curiosity that was killing me, and I opened some beer today.
Awesome.
And I haven't had any beer on the show in a long time. So there you go. But yeah, my buddy Wayne was over a few weeks ago, and he's from Louisiana. And he brought a 6-pack of this Turbo Dog, and it's from Abita Brewing in Louisiana. And it's a brown ale. And I'm enjoying this in a Go Vino beer glass because you and John liked him so much and I hadn't tried mine out yet. So I've got my little thumb notch.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is great. I mean, this is a perfect vessel for beer. They nailed it at Go Vino.
I actually think I like the beer glasses the most. I think they fit in your hand really nice.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go on a trip and you don't want to pull from the can or the bottle or whatever it is you've got on your road trip, those are great. I think every festival should have those.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, we probably should get into the discussion topic.
Yeah.
We're not talking about bourbon or beer today. What are we talking about?
No, and it's funny that we're talking about Chardonnay, and I was like, I don't even have any Chardonnay in my house right now, I don't think. Well, I mean, sparkling. That's what I've got. But let's talk about Chardonnay, even though we're not drinking it. We are going to have a little Grape Gab about the grape Chardonnay, and it's been given a bad rap a lot. Sometimes it's called over-manipulated, and it can be, and that's appropriate sometimes. Yet it's one of the most versatile grapes, and it's grown nearly everywhere, in every wine region, really. Some people have heard some of these other terms that we're going to call out here. So synonyms, Auxerrois. See, that's also a name for Chardonnay. Mm-hmm. Or Bonnois, Clevener, and Melon de Arbois. And so, you don't see it often, at least not in the U.S.
Well, it's interesting because there is a grape called Auxerrois as well, which is not Chardonnay.
That is so confusing.
I know. It can be so confusing. So, yeah. But Chardonnay is a very interesting grape because, one, it grows pretty much in every wine-growing region, like you said, around the world. But its roots... Get it? Roots. You have some more bourbon, Val. Can be traced back to Bourgogne, or what we call Burgundy, and the Champagne regions of East Central France. And as far back as, according to Jancis Robinson in her book Wine Grapes, which I love, as far back as the late 17th century, we can find mentions of the grape where back then it was spelled Chardonnay, like with an E-T on the end. Like Chardonnay, the way we spell with A-Y, but had an E-T, had a variety of other spellings as well. But there was a village of what is now called La Roche-Vigneuse, and it's north of Mâcon, which is kind of the southern, Mâcon is the southern region of Burgundy before we get into Beaujolais.
Right.
So that's, Beaujolais still is kind of part of Burgundy. Some people tell you it's not. Depends on what you're studying, honestly, and which book you're looking at. But Beaujolais likes its own thing, too. But you can actually send grapes back and forth across the border depending on what you're making. We won't go into all that. But the grape's been around for a long time. But it can also make so many different kinds of wines. So I thought it was really fun to say, speaking of this variety can make quite the variety of varietal wines from a variety of places. Right, Steph?
I love that you did that. Oh my gosh. I wish I could remember now which episode we talked about that. It was the one with David Glancy.
It was with David Glancy, where it's the variety is the grape, it's the noun, and varietal is the adjective. It's describing the wine, a single varietal wine.
I love that. I'm so glad we keep going over that because it's important. And so I probably don't even say it correctly half the time. It's like breaking
most
a bad
people
habit.
Don't, and I try not to get it does drive me crazy, but I try not to be outwardly, bejiggity about it. It's like, oh my God, this writer got it wrong again.
I like
and this
that you're
writer,
bejiggity.
Oh, but I don't like to say anything because it's like, who cares?
No, you know what, though? It's kind of like, here's the thing. I can relate to it in the way that I have brought it, my, quote, soapbox, with scented hand products, and how I've brought it to so many people's attention. Like, don't those perfumes and scents bother you when you're drinking wine or enjoying your food? And they're like, I hadn't really noticed it until now. And then it's like, then it bothers them all the time. Well, this is how this variety thing goes for me now. Like, now that it's just like, it's your pet peeve, now it's kind of my pet peeve too.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's hilarious. Anyway, but no, you know what's so cool about going over Chardonnay is that I have some friends who really enjoy wine, but they still don't really understand a lot of the differences between Chardonnay from here, Chardonnay from there. Why do they like some Chardonnays and then dislike others? And so I think it's cool that we're, just going over. There's a lot to talk about, but we're just going to try and distill it down and make sure that, there's something covered for everybody who's curious. So let's get back to the Chardonnay.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so Burgundy. So Val just mentioned Burgundy, and so it's only fair that we start with its home turf in Burgundy, and namely Chablis. Funny thing, Chablis is actually closer to Champagne than it is to Burgundy. This is a cool climate where Chardonnay will display more tart citrus and green, less ripe plum or apple fruit aromas. Due to its shorter growing season, Chardonnay from cool climates tends to be lower in sugar and higher in acidity at harvest time as well. Chablis is a fine example of this style. The further south we go in the northern hemisphere, the warmer the climate. So even as we approach the Mâconnais in Burgundy, where we have more moderate climate, Chardonnay will take on more melon, riper citrus, and peach or stone fruit aromas with moderate acidity on the palate. Likewise, in hotter climates, Chardonnay will take on tropical, mango, pineapple-y notes, and sometimes even fig, and display lower acidity due to the ability to fully ripen and develop those sugars, and it decreases in acidity. So some parts of California and Australia offer these styles where the alcohol levels are proportionally higher. But there are so many different styles of wine that can be made from Chardonnay. So should we start with our favorites? Oh my gosh, sparkling. Hello.
Oh my God, yes. Hello. Sparkling. Yes, Chardonnay is a key grape in the production of sparkling wines from France, such as Champagne, and it makes appearances in regional Cremant appellations. That's Cremant. You may have heard us talk about that before. We have those appellations in the southern France. We have them in Alsace. We have them in the Loire. In Italy, it's used in Franciacorta, which we've talked about before, and Trento DOC or Trento DOC, and other classic method sparklers like the Del Tetto from Piemonte we mentioned on the show. That's got a little Pinot Noir and Chardonnay in it as well. It is also blended into Cava from Spain. It creates superb quality sparkling wines in South Africa. There they call it Method Cap Classique. In Tasmania, where they have Method Tasmanoise. New Zealand, Australia, South America, the U.S., the United Kingdom makes some beautiful sparkling wines with Chardonnay, and Russia, the Sovetskoye Champanskoye, or Soviet Champagne.
Dude, that was awesome. That was really good. You should say that again.
Sovetskoye Champanskoye.
And I love Cap Classique.
A Cap Classique, and they sometimes call it Kopfswinkel.
That is so cool. I like that. Look at all the factoids.
That's like factoid-palooza, And most of these sparkling wines are dry, or what we call brut, but some are actually produced with a little bit of residual sugar, or even a little bit more. So we've got levels ranging from off-dry, demi-sec, all the way to dew, sweet, believe it or not. Aromas can range anywhere from citrus to tree fruits. And when we talk about autolytic or yeasty, toasty pastry notes, a lot of those comes from time on the lees. We can have nuts. All these kind of things can happen in these wines that are made. And that's just like classic method. We didn't even talk about like the Charmat method, or even, the cheaper stuff, which is done kind of like soda pop where they carbonate it, So there are all different ways to make sparkling, but Chardonnay actually does have a large part of the sparkling market. In a lot of places where they grow a lot of Chardonnay, it's just for sparkling.
Yeah.
Particularly in Italy. Like up in Lombardia, acreage of Chardonnay, and most of it's for bubbles.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I mean, you can't say that, if you're drinking sparkling, that you're probably drinking Chardonnay. You can't go as far as saying that, but a lot of times you are. So
a lot of times you are. And, and again, because it's so easy to grow, and it grows in all different kinds of soils and climates as well, it definitely is considered the winemaker's grape, because not only does it make sparkling styles, it actually makes dessert styles. I've actually had a sweet Chardonnay. I mean, we're not going to talk about those today, but this is exactly how I think we would address that whole ABC phenomenon, like the anything but Chardonnay thing that we've heard people say, right, Steph?
That's right. I remember the first time I heard somebody say that, and I was like, what? Yeah, but that's something to think about, really, when it comes to different Chardonnay styles, because there's a lot of people who, when they say they're an ABC drinker, or they're anything but Chardonnay is what ABC stands for. It's because a lot of times that, they've had something that's overly oaky. So let's talk a little bit about the oak versus unoaked. So barrel fermentation or prolonged exposure to oak or other wood can add a certain amount of flavor compounds, right? So that can be really nice. And those flavors would be spice, smoke, just the wood flavor, but also butterscotch and caramel and even adding some color, so having some more golden tone to the wine. The lees aging and malolactic fermentation can also aid in softening the texture and yielding a more creamy mouthfeel. And it rounds out, this full-bodied style of wine. And so that's the wine that people, pair with richer foods, or sometimes can be substituted instead of having a red wine. You have this more fuller body, richer Chardonnay style. Okay. But on the other side, there's now been a trend toward these leaner styles of Chardonnay, this unoaked style, and sometimes you can see them on the label or it might be referenced as a naked Chardonnay, or maybe you even see the term inox or silver. So there's different descriptors that are being used to let consumers know that the Chardonnay hasn't seen any oak. They haven't used any wood, and it's an approachable style for those who do not really enjoy that, manipulated, overly oaked or heavier style.
Chewy,
yeah, exactly. And so, the people who say they're ABC, anything but Chardonnay, they like these unoaked Chardonnay styles, these leaner styles. So, and when we say unoaked, so it's like, what do they put them in? So they're usually fermented in stainless steel. They do not undergo malolactic fermentation and will express more primary fruit aromas. So citrus, apple, pear, and then may or may not be slightly softened with batonnage or lee stirring. So there's kind of now a growing preference among wine consumers for this middle-of-the-road style. So more of a balanced Chardonnay that lies somewhere between those two. It's not heavily oaked, but it's not unoaked, right? So these have a judicious use of wood to give softness and texture and often like this complexity that, like, for me personally, that's what I love. I mean, I really like kind of that middle-of-the-road style. And I think there's a place for all of it, but I think that's what harmonizes with me a lot, where I remember when we were having that Australian Chardonnay on the show, not Australian, New Zealand Chardonnay that we had on the show recently. And you said, I loved how you said it was like the Chardonnay with pearls and red lipstick. And that's how I feel like, with this really nice use of oak. I mean, these Chardonnays can be so beautiful because they still have the freshness, and it feels, Burgundian. And I think that's what we're trying to explain to people about when we say something that's Burgundian. I was trying to explain that to my friend Kat because she loves Chardonnay so much. So I was like, oh, let's talk about, Burgundian style Chardonnay. She said, well, tell me more about that. I don't really know what you mean. So that's kind of what we're trying to explain. And I think it's nice that popularity has grown from consumers because now we're seeing more of that balanced middle-of-the-road style.
I used to love pouring Chardonnay blind for people. Usually if I was doing a tasting and there was a Chardonnay in the group, I would pour it blind. And there are Chardonnay, especially certain types of Chablis, there's certain types of Chardonnay that you could pour and people swear it's like Sauvignon Blanc. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that they're not good at identifying wine blind, because frankly, none of us really are that great at it. But at the same time, who cares? It's not a sport. Okay, sometimes it's a sport. But at the same time, it's so surprising that so many people are like, oh, I really like this. And these will be the people that generally will not buy Chardonnay because maybe they've had something that was lower end or not well made. Right. Don't realize that, hey, Chablis is Chardonnay. It's like, oh, I don't drink Chardonnay. I only drink Chablis. I'm like, same thing. I like champagne, but I don't like Chardonnay. Well, some people just like the bubbles. Well, a lot of champagne is Chardonnay.
Yeah.
A lot of it's Pinot Noir too, but a lot of it's Chardonnay. So it's interesting that just the way a wine can be made, just the way the winemaker uses his tools of the trade, whether it be certain kinds of wood, time in wood, certain kind of fermentations either in the wood or not, or time on those dead yeast cells or those leaves, like a spice rack, like when you're cooking, you know? That's what really, I think, makes Chardonnay such an amazing, versatile grape. And I think a lot of people just got stuck using like one style. And I'm not going to bag on any particular producers in the show. That's not what we're about. You know, but there are some examples that come up all the time. And there was a time where that, oh yeah, that used to be my jam. And now I'm like, how did I ever drink that? You know, so it's amazing. Your taste change the more wines you get exposed to. So we definitely encourage you for the hashtag W25 challenge to try different kinds of Chardonnays. Because let me tell you, it grows everywhere. Yeah. It's made all different styles. And if that was not a factoid-palooza, I don't know what is, but we do have a few more digestible tidbits before we get off our Chardonnay box here. For example, it is the most planted grape in California and Ontario.
Yeah.
Wine regions. And
I didn't know that. Ontario, huh?
Ontario, yeah. And this is according to Wine Grapes. Also, I have Wine Grapes open pretty much every day by Jancis, because there's always something new to learn in there. And then as far as white grapes go, it is the most planted in Washington State, Chile, and Australia as well. Even though I think Riesling is kind of creeping up there for Washington State, but it's still the most planted. And at one time, and I remember this when I was studying for the CSW, 4 or 5 years ago, there was a time where it was the most popular or most planted wine grape in New Zealand. Of course, that's been overtaken by Sauvignon Blanc, but there was one time that was the grape. So the grape can be found everywhere. There are different clones of it, way more styles than you can imagine, from dry to sweet to bubbly to still to dessert. So we definitely encourage you guys to get out and try some Chardonnay today.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that's a great hashtag W25 challenge, because there's a lot of people who don't typically drink Chardonnay, and they're missing out on some really cool styles. So,
oh my gosh, you know what? I do have one here that I've been saving for you to try.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
Yay!
Yeah, I got one down in my basement. It's actually Italian. It is blended with another grape, the Grucchetto, and you're going to be in Umbria in a couple of weeks, and you'll be able to try, if you've tried the Cervaro della Sala.
No.
By Antinori, and it is a beautiful wine, and that is really, really pretty. And I've got a couple interesting Chardonnays from the south of France that I like to keep as my house Chardonnay, and so yeah, I'm saving Cervaro della Sala for you to try. That's if you don't get to try it in Italy. But
well, thank you.
Yum yum yum. And the other one in Italy that you can try is by Quercibella, and it's called the Batar, Batar.
Okay.
It's probably about €50 a bottle. But it is half Chardonnay, half Pinot Blanc, I believe.
Ooh.
Divine.
Oh, that sounds outstanding. I think you just made my day.
Okay.
Well, and now that those two are on my... I think our Skype is driving us crazy.
Oh my God. Yes, it is a good thing.
I know, because we're like talking over each other, because it reminds me of when we were recording with Lynn.
Oh, yeah, in France, all the delay. Yeah, we're doing what we call a double ender, where we're each recording our own end, and then Skype is just giving us a fit today. So why don't we go on to Wino Radar?
Okay, so on my Wino Radar is the Boulder Burgundy Festival, and that is in Boulder, Colorado from October 20th through the 23rd. It starts with a champagne kickoff party and then goes until the grand tasting on Sunday evening. The tickets are extremely limited, but the guest list is pretty impressive, including Master of Wine Jancis Robinson. Oh my gosh. And so she'll be doing a seminar on to stem or not to stem, and that's going to be on Sunday the 23rd. So check that out. We'll have the link in our show notes.
Oh, that's going to be awesome. Gosh, I wish I could attend like every single event, but I will say it's not cheap. So, and neither are the wines that you'll be served. So you want to taste some really great Chardonnay, that's really the place to do it.
Yes. I think that's so appropriate for this episode.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was a good lead into Bergfest. So, shout outs. Our show would not be possible without you, our listener community. To find out more about how you can support Wine to Five Show, please go to patreon.com, Wine to Five Podcast. Who are we shouting out to this week? We've got Patreon love. Should I get that music that we had?
Yeah, listener love and some Patreon love.
We would like to give a huge shout out to Jeff E. of the We Like Drinking podcast. He's a super supporter, and we thank you, Jeff, so much for pledging a level of support for which we were not yet prepared, dude. I mean, maybe you can name that level of support for that category. We're thinking like the Raising Our Glasses or the Happy Hour supporters, because we totally did not foresee that. So your level of generosity is just so inspiring, and we thank you so much. And our It's Not 5 o'clock and We Don't Care supporters, we have Clay and Meg, and we thank you both so much as well. So we would love to get all of your pictures up on our blog. We thank you for the Patreon love, because that's what helps keep our show fresh and fun, and hopefully will support our equipment and syndication costs and fees for registering for different events or contests or things to get our podcast out there and support the podcasting community. So thank you guys so much, and I believe that brings us to the end.
The end. I mean, that's how we should end it, with thanking everybody for being such awesome supporters. So you can connect with Val on Twitter at WineGalUnboxed, and on the Vino with Val Facebook page, and on Instagram as Vino with Val. And you can find me on Twitter at Albarello Soap, and on the Albarello Soap Facebook page, and on YouTube.
And you can visit us on our Wine to Five website, Facebook page, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Google+. And if you want to build your collection of wine books like this wine grape goodness that I've got in front of me, you can check out our online store, also located on our website. We also hope that you'll share Wine to Five with your friends and online community, and we certainly appreciate all your involvement, your feedback. You can leave us a burning wine question or a comment on SpeakPipe, and while you're at it, you can, if you are so inclined, go to iTunes and show us some love there in form of a glowing iTunes review. Hey, we're also on iHeartRadio, so you can share us with your Android friends as well. Either way, please share our fun Wine to Five community with all the wine lovers in your life. One more thing, don't forget to use the hashtag W25Challenge when you are trying new wines and drinks to win an opportunity to co-host the show with us. Until next week, cheers!
Thank you for listening to the Wine to Five podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/WineTWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.